YouTube? Mountbatten here. And a very different port this update. Yeah, this is the new winter port. It's a little odd when you come into it, but you know what? It's pretty neat. But that's not what today's video is about. Today's video is about this fellow right here. The Tier 9 new premium Dockyard, pan-European, actually Swedish, battleship, the Niord. So the Niord Dockyard went live today with the release of the update. As you can see, I have acquired her here in port to review for you guys. The Niord is a pretty interesting battleship. She's more of a torpedo-focused battleship with a small caliber and number of main battery guns. She only has 8 15-inch guns at Tier 9. But they have a good reload time, good accuracy, and a good sigma, so there might be some potential there on top of her 20 torpedo tubes. So before we go any further, absolutely massive shout out to the channel's Patreon supporters. I am not a CC, so I do not get any of these ships to review for you guys for free. I have to purchase them either with the generous funds donated by the Patreon supporters or through the ad revenue that the channel does generate. So the best place to support the channel, besides of course watching the videos and streams, is the channel's Patreon, which you can find in a link down below. But let's go ahead and take a look at the Niord. So not exactly sure how this is going to go with the wonky camera setup. I think we can access most of what we need access to here, so let's just figure it out together, shall we? So, in order to get the Niord, of course, you have to unlock her in the Dockyard. There are 20 stages to the Dockyard. You can complete 18 of the stages by just completing the combat missions, which we can't access here. So let's go take a peek at some of them. Of course, I did just buy my way through it, so we could have the ship to review for you guys. But as you can see, the missions are time gated as is normal. The first set of missions, of course, it's going to be very easy. It is a Tier 9 ship, so I do suspect the final missions are going to be a little bit rougher than what a Tier 8 Dockyard is. 99,000 base XP, that's not too hard. 30 million credits, not too hard. Keep in mind, too, we do have asymmetric battles returning to the game. Is it available in that? Doesn't look like it. Brawl, Queen's Rage operation. I mean, that's pretty easy. That's a Star Trek operation. Ranked operations, random battles. Actually, asymmetrics hasn't gone live just yet. So perhaps I would imagine if they're allowing you to do it in the Star Trek operation, which is so easy to get like high damage numbers, right? Like 4 million HP of damage to ships. That might seem something crazy in random battles, which it is, but in the Star Trek operation mode, that is really not hard at all. After going through a few games of it, right? But yeah, okay, so 99,000 base XP, not too crazy. 30 million credits, not too crazy. 4 million XP, not too crazy. So, considering that, again, we have the Star Trek operation mode and asymmetrics coming out, again, we don't know for sure, apparently, if this will be able to be done in the asymmetrics battle type, but doesn't look too crazy. It's certainly doable, in my humble opinion. Just double checking, because, yeah, asymmetrics are not out just yet. But yeah, so shouldn't be too hard to get done. So you have to grind your way through 18 of those missions, and you have to purchase 2 phases if you wish to get the ship. The phases cost 3,000 doubloons a pop. So 6,000 doubloons, you get a Tier 9 premium battleship. You also get the Tier 5 destroyer, the Camo. This little guy right here. Haven't checked him out yet, but you get him for free. And considering that, we have the festive rewards, the Snowflake event, the Santa Container event coming up around the corner, the more ships you can have, the better, right? So you get the Camo, you get the Niord, you also get all the rewards that I'm showing on screen right now, if editing Sealord did not forget to add those in. Because the Dockyard, it's not just about the ship that you get at the end, you also get a ton of rewards along the way. So, all that for 6,000 doubloons. If you buy your way through the event, you can regrind not regrind, but you can grind through the missions for steel, And let's see, I think it actually showed me a tally here, how much steel you can get if you buy your way through the entire thing. So 400 steel a phase for 20 phases. There you go. All right, so enough about getting the Niord. Let's take a look at the Niord. All right, so this is I'm pretty sure it's the rubric hull, but let's see what they have done to it. It is a Tier 9 premium ship, so you do get the Tier 9 premium economy baked into it. This is the standard camo. If you want the... See, this is so weird. You got to go back out here. They go back into the equipment, the exterior tab to get to the... Yeah, it's just weird what they've done here. This is the war paint camo. We have a very cinematic shot behind the building right here to look at the camo. This is the camo that the ship does come with when you complete the Dockyard. I do like the design. I just don't like, these types of camos on my ships usually. I just run the more historical looking camos, but for what it is very good looking in my opinion. Like I've talked about before with some other Dockyard ships, it's very over the top what they do with some of these camos, but this one's pretty nice. But again, we're going to rock the historical camo. Alright, so now the armor. Because I forgot to talk about the economic section there. Alright. It's all the way over there. Alright. Back to the ship. Alright. So, okay, cool. You do have 32mm bow plating. The icebreaker bow that you would find on the Ruprecht instead here is just 32mm thick as well. We're going to go this way because we have more room for the camera. Alright. Armor belt is 300mm thick. 235 below the water where it meets the torpedo protection. 220 for the upper. And then the upper belt is 150mm thick. You do get a little kind of icebreaker stern around here. That's 100mm thick. That would be nice for kiting situations. 32mm stern and 32mm stern deck. 32mm mid deck. So this is all 32. That's all going to get pinned by everyone and their mom with their HE shells. And the bow deck is also 32. Correct? Yes, it is. All right, let's take a look at the Citadel, which is right at the surface of the water, so it is submerged when you're sailing in a fairly straight line. Not too submerged, though. But it is protected. It is not protected by that. You do get the torpedo blisters, yeah. So you get the torpedo blisters and the belt armor, obviously protecting it. No turtleback armor, though. You get a little bit of a spaced armor effect there, but again, I'm pretty sure this is the Ruprecht hull, so it's, I wouldn't sell broadside to anybody, right? Definitely you want to stay angled. It's not something that can eat broadsides and not simply care about it. Okay. Turrets, 360mm turret face, sides are 220. Angled plates are 150. Angled front is 150, and tops are 130. So it doesn't look too tanky. I mean, granted, again, it's a battle cruiser hull that at least has 32mm of armor, so you can, bow tank much better than the German battle cruiser line, so you have that going for you. But 63,900 HP on top of that, so that's fairly low by Tier 9 battleship standards. Most Tier 9 battleships, 70s, 80,000-ish HP nowadays. 63, that's like Tier 8. Like, I'm pretty sure the Bismarck has more HP than that. Granted, that is the Bismarck, right? Let me find my Bismarck. So Bismarck has 69,000 damage. So you have about a little bit less HP than a Tier 9 battleship there. What's that? 69, 63. That's 6,000 ish less damage, less HP than a Tier 8 battleship. So you've got okay armor, but your HP is quite low, so you definitely want to take that into consideration when you are out and about on the battlefield. Okay. 23% torpedo damage reduction too, so kept that German lackluster torpedo damage reduction as well. Alright, the main battery guns. You have, again, 8 380mm 15-inch guns that reload, granted, in 21 second space. That's pretty dang good. This is all based on modules. No commander skills have been applied just yet. She does have 1.9 Sigma as well, which is really good. You have 274 meters of dispersion at 21.4 kilometers. So again, that with the 1.9 sigma, that should be pretty good. And you have the 21-second base reload time on top of that. So maybe. We'll see what happens when we get into game. The HE has a maximum damage rating of 4,400, 34% fire chance. Doesn't seem too spectacular on a ship with only 8 guns, but again, with the accuracy and the reload time, who knows? Might make up for it. And this is really important on a ship like the Niord that has small guns for its tier. You know, at tier 9, most battleships, 16-inch guns, that's the standard, so this is below that. So you're going to be finding yourself spamming quite a lot of HE because, well, there are things that you can't overmatch, things that you can't pin, that you're going to have to go up against. So HE is very important on ships like this, so we'll see. Again, with the reload time and the accuracy, that might make up for it. We'll find out here in a minute. Can pin 95 millimeters of armor, though, so, you know, whatever you shoot at with your HE, you're probably going to pin it if it's not, you know, belt armor. 820 meters a second is how fast these shells are coming out of the tubes. AP does 11,600 maximum damage, and it too comes out the tubes at 820 meters a second. That is a pretty nice velocity, so it should be fairly comfortable. Secondary guns, you only get 12 of them. You get 12 120mm guns, 3-second reload time, 7-kilometer base range. Maximum damage from the shells is 1,700, 7% fire chance per shell, and they only pin 20mm of armor. You only have 12 guns here, guys. It's not really worth building into. I mean, that's not what the ship is about. You want a secondary ship like this, go play the Ruprecht, right? You know, it'll do you a lot better than that. Alright, now the torpedoes, the thing that this ship is supposedly all about. You get 4x5 of the 533mm torps. They do travel at 86 knots, so they're fairly fast. They are the pan-European torps, of course. The thing is, though, there's not really a whole lot you can build into with the battleship commanders to really, you know, kind of take these torps to the next levels, like you can do with like the pan-European DDs. You can, of course, take some modules that can improve them, but we'll see. But anyway, they do take 110 seconds to reload. That's almost 2 minutes base. That's quite a long reload time. 15-kilometer max range, though, that's fairly nice. They only do 10,700 damage per torp. So, again, that's the pan-European torp thing. They're fast, but do low damage. And 1.8-kilometer detection range, granted with their speed, but should be fine. Now, my big concern is that, well, there's 2 sets of these per side. You're in a battleship. You're going to be getting HE spam constantly. I don't think they're going to survive for that long. We'll see what happens. You get 2 flights of your ASW aircraft. They drop, 2 depth charges per strike, and they reload in how fast? 30 seconds. Now the AA, that's the other thing about this ship. She's touted as having good AA. So you get 14 of the single-mounted 40mm Bofor cannons, and then the 120mm secondary guns are dual-purpose. And you have a 6-kilometer range, which is pretty good. 383 continuous damage, 1,610 damage per flak burst, and a 35% buff to your sector reinforcement. Maneuverability, she has a top speed of 32 knots, an 840-meter turning circle radius, and a 15.4-second rudder shift time. And finally, concealment is 15.1, which is not bad starting out from base. Alright, I am going to go ahead and put a commander and module build on the Niord. I'll meet you guys right back here. Alright, fellas, so let's start with the commander, shall we? So, of course, I have Mr. Swirsky. I'm going to use him because he's the legendary pan-European commander with the skill where once you get 8 torpedo hits on targets, you get a 5% buff to the reload time of your torpedoes. And this is, well, unlimited. So every 8 torpedo hits, you get an improved reload time. Pretty good. I just have to land 8 torpedoes now, He also has the AA gun expert talent, which improves your AA damage after shooting down 20 planes. Which again, Niord's supposedly a good AA boat, so we're going to find that out. Alright, So I took preventive maintenance to decrease the chance of our torpedo tube, steering gears, and engine becoming incapacitated. Also buffs the survivability of our secondary guns and our AA mounts. So again, very nice skill to have, and reduces the chance of all those modules becoming incapacitated by 30%. I then took grease the gears to get our turret rotating that much faster. This improves the rotation time by 20%, or I should say improves the speed by 20%. Well, I mean, it should improve the rotation time by 20% either way. I then went with Adrenaline Rush, which of course is a skill that I'm pretty sure everybody pretty much takes. But this reduces the reload time of your main battery guns, your secondary guns, and of your torpedo tubes by 0.25% per 1% of HP loss. It also increases your continuous AA damage by that as well. I then went with Basics of Survivability, which gives us a 15% buff to the restoration time of our modules and a 15% buff to our fire and flooding recovery time. So that is a less amount of time you're spending on fire and flooding, which means that's less damage you are eating. I then took Emergency Repair Expert for that additional charge of the repair party and damage con, and the 10% buff to their runtime. Obviously, I mean, 10% buff to the runtime of both of those. That's less time you're either on fire or flooding with the repair. With the damage con, and that's more healing you're getting with the repair party, and it gives you an additional charge of that. And with a ship like the Niord that has low HP, you definitely want as many of those as you can get. Then I took Concealment Expert for a 10% buff to the ship's concealment range, and Fire Prevention for a 10% buff to the chance of us catching on fire, and reducing the max number of fires on the ship from 4 to 3. So that means we can only be set on fire in 3 places instead of 4 places. 4 fires really suck. Alright, to the modules now. So I took Main Armaments Mod 1, since that is literally what the ship is all about. It's all about the main battery guns and the torpedoes, and this reduces the chance of those main battery guns or torpedoes being incapacitated by 20%, and buffs their survivability by 50%, and buffs their repair time by 20%. And then I took Damage Control Systems Mod 1 because, well, fires suck. Obviously, getting set on fire and burning sucks. It whittles away at your HP, so we want to reduce that, as much as we can. So this reduces the chances of us catching on fire by 5%, reduces the chances of us flooding by 3%. I promise I can talk, y'all. I just don't know why I can't talk today. Alright, I then went ahead and took Torpedo Tubes Mod 1, which increases the torpedo speed by 5%, and again further reduces the chances of us getting incapacitated by 40%. It also improves the traverse speed of the torpedo tube's mounts, which I don't think it really matters too much when you have the wing mounts like we do on the Niord. If you have like the central mounts on some of the destroyers, that's probably a little bit more important, but it does do that nonetheless. Alright, we then took Damage Con Mod 2, which again, fires and floodings, they suck. So we want them to, well, exist on our ship for as little amount of time as possible, and this reduces the fire time and the flooding time by 15% for both. So again, less time we're on fire, less time we're flooding, less time we are losing HP. I then took Concealment System Mod 1 for another 10% buff to the ship's concealment range. The smaller your detection range, the better you can control your own engagements, so that gives you a better chance of running away from a fight you may not win overall. So you definitely want to take that, in my humble opinion. And then I went ahead and took Main Battery Mod 3 for a 12% buff to the reload time of the main battery guns. Now, you could most certainly take Torpedo Tubes Mod 3 to give you a 15% buff to your torpedo tube reload time, and considering you have a 110-second reload time, that is a pretty substantial buff. However, the main battery guns have a 21-kilometer range. The torpedoes have a 15-kilometer range. Given the state of higher tier games, I suspect we are going to be relying on the main battery guns for damage more often than we are the torpedo tubes. So that's why I went with Main Battery Mod 3. Could you go with the torpedo tubes mod? Absolutely. And if you do, and if it works, bravo to you. But we're going to start with the reload module here for the main battery guns. We might actually wind up taking the range module here because there are no consumables here besides your heal and the damage con. So there is no spotter plane on the ship. So you might wind up taking one of those rather than the torpedo tube module because, again, the guns have more range and it's easier to get shells on targets than torpedoes on targets, right? So that's what we're going with right now. Speaking of the heal, with the flag on, it does regenerate 483 HP per second, is active for 30.8 seconds, and you get a 57-second cooldown time on that. 5 charges of that with the skill. And then damage con, 16.5 second runtime with the commander skill, and it cools down in 76 seconds. We do have the new Charlie Kilo flag on because detonations have been removed from this update. So that's pretty cool. We get a 5% buff to our HP there. Speaking of the ship, what it be now? Well, it be, taking a look at its survivability, we now have 67,000 HP with the Charlie Kilo flag. The guns now reload in 18.5 seconds. That's pretty solid in my humble opinion. Now we could also take, that's another thing, in that same slot, obviously the dispersion module to give us a better dispersion on the main battery guns, but again, with it being a torpedo focused battleship, I want to give that a chance. And the guns, again, on paper should be pretty dang accurate. Either way. There we go. Try and get back to the ship there. What else? I think that's it. The turret's rotated 28.7 seconds now, which is a sub 30-second reload time. That's really solid. Nothing else should have changed there. The torpedoes, they're now traveling at 90 knots. But we still have that 110-second reload time. Hopefully with Adrenaline Rush and Mr. Swirsky here, that will be getting dropped quite fast. 33.6 knots with the speed flag, and our concealment is now down to 12.2 kilometers. So we've got roughly, 2.8, 3-ish kilometers of stealth torping capability. Yeah, 2.8 kilometers of stealth torping. So, who knows? Maybe it will work. Well, guys, I'm going to go ahead and take the Niord into battle. I'll meet you guys there with a voiceover first impressions review of her. Alright guys, voiceover Sealord here. So the Niord, let's start with her gun, shall we? One of the most important bits of any battleship. In all of the literature surrounding the Niord, her guns are described as accurate. That's a bit of a stretch from my experience. Now granted, I am not running the dispersion module on her guns, but I'm assuming that they are referring to her base guns, right? That they are accurate even without the module. Well, without the module, you get the dispersion that you're seeing in the background, which is not all that accurate. It is fairly consistent, at least. I mean, she does have 1.9 Sigma, so that does definitely help there, but not quite what I would call accurate. I mean, I guess they're not going all over the place. It's better than German battleship dispersion, but the fast reload time, it's definitely doing the heavy lifting here when it comes to the main battery guns. Because, well, yes, they aren't, like Shikishima accurate, which, I mean, that's a tier 10, so obviously she's going to be a lot more accurate than a tier 9. It is very much consistent. So with that quick reload time that I had running the reload module, which was 18 seconds and change, it definitely made up for it. So per salvo, accuracy isn't very high, but considering you're cranking these shots out, even without the reload module at 21 seconds, it's definitely workable. And the main battery guns do put in a fair amount of work. Now, I wound up, when I started playing the Niord, I would start with AP loaded, then swap to HE as needed. I just kept HE loaded after a couple of matches because I was having a better time bringing in consistent damage by just spamming HE with the fast reload time. The AP, I mean, the AP definitely works. I mean, they're still 15-inch guns. 15-inch guns, even to tier 9, tier 10 as super ships, when you have someone sitting broadside to you or you have an opportunity to get some AP into their broadside, it definitely does work. And in more than a few cases, I found myself citadeling many a cruiser that were slipping up and showing me broadside. And considering that, again, you get that first salvo on target, and by the time the salvo gets to the target, you've only got 13 seconds left until your next salvo is ready to go. get some nice quick follow-up shots here. So the AP is definitely workable, but the HE is kind of what I was spamming in order to bring in good, consistent damage. And again, with an 18 and change second reload, the amount of HE you're putting downrange with even 8 guns, it's pretty high. So a welcome surprise there that her main battery guns are actually pretty workable in a tier 9 environment. Because keep in mind, this thing can see tier 10 and super ship games, and that's obviously, going to be a test of any tier 9 ship. But thankfully, HE, that good consistent damage does very much come from that. Number 4 turret can 360 degrees, so that is very nice for keeping most of your guns in the fight. Number 3, gotta take a few seconds to get around. The gun angles were pretty good, again, thanks to that 360 degree turret. Nothing really to write home about too much. I wasn't really having too much trouble getting the guns on target, so definitely workable gun angles, workable guns, perfectly fine guns in my opinion. Again, if you do take the range mod or the torpedo mod instead of the reload mod, of course you're going to have a 21-second reload time, but that's still pretty dang good either way. I was using the reload mod and it was working out perfectly fine for me. But the other big attraction about the Niord is her torpedoes. Now, the torpedoes, that was kind of the whole thing that, the ship is a torpedo-focused battleship. You got 20 of the pan-European torpedoes. They go up to 15 kilometers. You can get them up to, with the module, 90 knots. How are they? Well, they are pretty useful in a lot of situations, but you do have to be in those situations to use them, right? So if you are on a flank and the enemy team is trying to push into you, you are going to have a blast in the Niord. Why? Well, you have 8 15-inch guns with a good reload time with pretty decent HE, where you can start burning down ships, and then every minute and change, you can throw 20 torpedoes down the enemy flank, which means, you're coating that flank with, 20 torpedoes that are traveling at 90 knots, again with the module, with which 90 knot torpedoes are not that easy to dodge. Yes, they are fired from 1.8 kilometers, but again, they're going 90 knots, and yeah, they only do 10,000 damage a torpedo, but with the torpedoes you'll be causing flooding. You've probably set these targets on fire already with your main battery guns, so they very likely have used their damage con, or maybe you'll hit them with the torpedoes. That'll cause them to use their damage con, and then now you hit them with the HE and you get burning them down. So that's pretty much the gameplay loop of the Niord that I found her at her strongest. Obviously, too, if you are in a situation where you can, duck and weave in between islands and, pull up on somebody and dump 10 torpedoes into their broadside, even at a mere 10,000 damage a torp, you're still doing an excess of 100,000 damage from one side of torpedoes, right? So no ship is going to really survive that, except for, of course, some of the super ships, right? So that's still pretty good. Basically, I was playing her like a huge cruiser, which, that's how a lot of these higher tier, I guess, Germanic battleships, I guess you could say, play, like the Pommern and the FDG nowadays. If you build into their main battery guns, that's how they play, like very large cruisers, and that's what I was doing here with the Niord, and even down to the HE spamming, right? And it was very much working. Obviously, you do have the lower HP pool. That does very much kind of throw a monkey wrench into things, because you can't be overly aggressive, but you do also have the good concealment range to disengage when you feel the need to, which is also nice. She can go 33 knots with the speed flag as well, so you have a pretty good ability to control your own engagement, obviously barring a submarine popping up. CVs, yet again, the AA was described as good, and the pan-Euro ships tend to have good AA. I shot some planes down. That happens. It's so much in the CV player's court when it comes to AA. If they don't dodge at all and they just drive into your flak, they're going to get slaughtered, right? But if it's a decent CV player that knows how to dodge the flak, knows how to trick the AI, Obviously, your flak's going to be much less effective unless you're in something, again, like a Minotaur or a Wooster or a Kid, right, that has absurd AA. So, I mean, like, I ran across a couple of Tier 8 CVs and Tier 10 CV. When their planes flew around me, planes were shot down. I did pop Swirsky's AA defense skill once, which is obviously nice. So there's that. The AA does work. You know, it's present, unlike in some ships where it feels like it's just a fireworks show. But I wouldn't say it's like, you know, obviously Minotaur levels of AA. So it would be a nice addition to anybody's AA bubble if you're selling with some other ships. So everything I've described to you so far should start to ring some bells for some other pan-Euro battleship enjoyers. You go to the off-flank, you throw your torpedoes, you cause the enemy ships to pop their damage con, and then you burn them down by spamming HE with your main battery guns. What does that sound like, dear viewer? Oh yeah, it's the Karl the 14th Johann. It's literally the same playstyle. And just like with the Niord, I played the Karl the 14th Johann like a large cruiser. And it's literally the same thing. You have a Tier 9 pan-European battleship with pan-European torpedoes with good range, with a smaller main battery gun, with decent HE, and again, you do the same thing. You try to trigger the enemy ship's damage con, then you burn them down with your guns, or you set floods on them with your torpedoes. The difference here is that, well, the Niord has a larger main battery gun set and doesn't have the secondaries. The Karl the 14th Johann has where they 305s, 310mm guns, and a bunch of secondary guns that you can build into, and it can kind of do that. And it has hydro. The Niord has no other consumables besides her heal and her damage con. So yeah, they do the same thing, just slightly different. So if you have a Karl the 14th Johann and you like that, if you want to try it with bigger guns and without any secondaries, behold, the Niord is something that you might be interested in. But if you have a Karl the 14th Johann and you like how it plays and you like the secondaries, no real need to go after the Niord here. So there's that. I mean, I guess the Niord, with the 15-inch guns, with the nice reload time, like I said, the AP does very much work. So I guess if you wanted to have more of a larger caliber AP focused Karl the 14th Johann, you kind of have that here in the Niord. So there's that. But I mean, if you have the Karl, they do the same thing. It's a slightly different concept. I guess you could say it's a side grade to the Karl the 14th from what I've seen here. So there's that. So the big question is, of course, is it worth it overall? Well, you get in the Dockyard, you get the Niord, you get all the goodies that I showed at the start of the video, you get the Kalmar, the Tier 5 premium pan-European destroyer, all for the price of, if you grind through all the missions, $24 US, because you have to buy 2 phases of the Dockyard. Now, that's if you just buy the phases. If you buy the starter pack, you get the 2-phase starter pack for 5,000 doubloons. So that's a bit of a discount, right? So instead of paying $24, you're only having to pay $20 for a Tier 9 ship. And yeah, I mean, it's a Tier 9 premium ship. It has a Tier 9 premium economy, so that means it's going to be pretty good at printing you credits. And if you already have the Karl the 14th Johann, which is already a Tier 9 premium ship, what's pretty much what the game is here, except you're using your main battery guns to set the fires instead of the secondaries and the main battery guns. So there's that. Now, is it worth that to you? Well, I mean, it's a Tier 9 premium for $20 if you buy the starter pack, or $24 if you don't buy the starter pack and you just, as you're playing the game, you're completing the missions, and then, you see you're a handful of missions away from the end. I would grind them out and pick up a Tier 9 premium ship for $24, right? I think it's a pretty solid deal. I mean, Tier 9 Premium's a Tier 9 Premium regardless of much else. But is it something that I would stop what I'm doing right now and just laser focus on grinding out this event, trying to get the ship? Not really, because me personally, it's not really my play style. I'm not a lot of secondaries on it. I'm not really into HE spammy battleships. I also have the Carl the 14th Johann, right? So not really my thing, but if you like a battleship that feels like a cruiser, if you like a kiting battleship with 15-kilometer torpedoes, yeah, probably something you would enjoy. And I mean, you do get all the goodies along the way. So what I recommend, and what I usually recommend at these dockyards, is that, you know, just play your way through the game, this patch. Just get what you can get from the dockyard, and, you know, see where you're at by, you know, by the end of this patch, because you got this patch and 3 weeks of the next patch to grind out the dockyard missions. So that's what, 5 plus 3, 8 weeks to grind out the dockyard missions. And you still have until the end of 14.0 to purchase shipbuilding phases for the dockyard as well. So there's that. I mean, Tier 9 Premium for $20, $24, depending upon how you get it. That's not a bad deal in my mind. The ship is good, if that's what you're looking for. The ship itself is good. It's not terrible. It's not, oh my god, it's amazing. It's just good. Numerical rating, like 7.5, 8 out of 10 is probably where I would put it, because it does what it does. You know, it's got 15-kilometer torpedoes, high-speed torps, low-damage torps, easy to get on target, easy to get consistent damage on target. Guns that may be, you know, a little exaggeratory to call them accurate, but you have a 21-second base reload time, 18-second reload time if you take the module. That's pretty good, and they're consistent enough to where you can constantly get shells on targets, and with your HE, you know, you're going to be setting fires regardless. So, like, yeah, it does damage downrange. Yeah, it's a little low in the HP department. Yeah, it's not the tankiest ship ever, but you got that good concealment, good speed to back it up. So it's just a good ship, in my opinion. Now, would I throw, 60,000 doubloons at the event to buy your way through every single phase to get the ship? Absolutely not. Definitely grind through it. Buy the 2 phases. That's the way I would recommend getting it. At that point, you've got all the phases, all the rewards for all the phases, the Camo, and the Niord for a mere $24 or $20 with a starter pack. So that's what I would recommend do. You know, it's not something I think you need to definitely get, because again, the Carl the 14th does what this thing does already. They're just a slightly different method to doing the same thing. So it's not something you need to stop what you're doing right now and like, oh my god, get this ship. No, it's nothing like that. But if you like the gameplay footage you're seeing in the background, you like battleships that feel like cruisers, you like battleships with torpedoes, and you like all flank kiters, yeah, this ship is probably one that you will very much enjoy. So guys, that is my 2 cents on the Niord. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. You planning on picking her up, or are you going to pass on this one as well? Oh, one last thing. If you do drop 60,000 doubloons on the event, you can grind the combat missions for a grand total of 9,200 steel. You get 7,200 steel from the missions if you grind through the missions after buying through the phases, and then you get 2,000 steel from the event itself. So you can get 9,200 steel from the event if you want to drop that much money on steel. Unless you're down bad for some steel, again, I wouldn't really recommend that, but hey, that's what you can get out of it if you do drop that much money on it. But anyway, yeah, let me know what you guys think about the Niord in the comments down below. Hope you guys enjoyed. Have a wonderful Thursday. Hey, wonderful Thanksgiving Day. I didn't realize that this was coming out on Thanksgiving. Look at that. But yeah, guys, hope you guys have a wonderful Thanksgiving if you celebrate that. And hope to see you guys in the next one.